Yeah, I was asked about it, but not as much as I thought. I feel
Okay.
like I probably over prepared
Yeah,
in
yeah.
that way. Um, I was sort of asked about one aspect of it, and then went off on a tangent and we were talking about like a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, yeah, be prepared to be asked something about your personal statement and be prepared to go off on a tangent completely
Mm.
and think about things you might never have thought about before, or have maybe your initial idea challenged or changed in the interview.
Mm.
Just be really open to different ways of thinking.
Hello everyone, welcome to Cambridge from the Inside. We're here with a new guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Phoebe.
Nice. And what are you studying?
I'm studying history and German.
Mm.
Yeah.
And but you applied for,
Yeah, so I applied for MML, German and Spanish post
yeah.
A level, and then I switched
Mm.
courses a few weeks ago.
Nice. That sounds really cool. And we're here today to talk about MML interviews. Anyone who's applied for MML and they've got an interview coming up, how to prepare for the interviews, what to expect in them. So yeah, like for your MML interviews, how did you prepare for them?
So my school set up a mock interview,
Yeah.
which was really helpful, gave me a sense of what the interview would be like and the sort of questions that I'd be answering and considering.
Mm.
Um, and so if your school is able to set up a mock interview, then definitely go for that.
Mm.
Or maybe try and have like a conversation with like friends or family who are interested in that subject as well, to sort of develop your thinking like on the spot as well.
Yeah.
But I think the most useful thing I did was I set up a Google Doc.
Okay.
I basically went through my personal statement plan, and any notes I had when I was applying, and when separated each aspect of my personal statement, and then under each heading, I basically collected like ideas that I'd want to discuss in more detail if I was asked about it in an interview. Any ideas I had about that aspect, any like notes or
Yeah.
like from further reading. So I sort of had an idea if I was asked about something in my personal statement in the interview, then I had an idea of what I'd want to say and like develop that idea. And then practicing like with myself in the mirror or with family members,
Yeah.
just talking out loud and really like developing my thought processes. I'd say probably that was the most useful, just having conversations, picking things out from your personal statement, and maybe talking to friends or family and getting them to ask questions for clarification or for more detail. Just really going in depth on what you've mentioned in your personal statement, any ideas you have about it.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
That's loads there. So I'm quite curious about what this Google Doc was. So was the Google Doc something that was separate to your personal statement?
Yeah, so I just set up like a blank Google Doc and
Yeah.
just listed the things I'd mentioned in my personal statement,
Okay. Yeah.
and then just went into more detail on each
Yeah.
one and used it as sort of like a revision doc and
Yeah.
just went through it, read through it, and then like spoke out loud, like discussing them in detail, just so I had an idea of everything in a lot more depth. And if I was asked about it in the interview, I sort of had an idea about what I'd want to
Mm.
say. Yeah.
Nice. Wow. That sounds really cool. That sounds really good. I've never heard anyone do that before. Like we really say people should like be familiar with their personal statement, but to kind of think about your personal statement deeply and think about what more you could say in case you're asked in interviews. Sounds like a really good preparation. Were you asked about your personal statement in the interview?
Yeah, I was asked about it, but not as much as I thought. I feel
Okay.
like I probably over prepared
Yeah,
in
yeah.
that way. Um, I was sort of asked about one aspect of it, and then went off on a tangent and we were talking about like a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, yeah, be prepared to be asked something about your personal statement and be prepared to go off on a tangent completely and think about things you might never have thought about before, or have maybe your initial idea challenged or changed in the interview. Just be really open to different ways of thinking is probably a big piece of advice.
Yeah, nice. So even though, next, the stuff that you prepared for different things you might say about your personal statement, are you saying that even though you might think beforehand things you might want to say, being prepared to change your mind of the things that you prepared with?
Yeah, I think so. And I think because the conversations you have with the interviewers are so in depth and so um, specific and in detail, I think you potentially will change your opinion on something because you're able to have a conversation with an academic who knows a lot about the subject. They're going to be able to teach you things and maybe change like the way you initially think about something, and give you like new insights. I think the conversations you have will be very insightful and probably change your perspective on some aspects of the language learning or things you've mentioned in your personal statement.
And is that something that like happened in your interview, would you say?
I did mention, so in my Spanish interview, we were talking about the book I read, Como
Yeah.
Agua para Chocolate, and we discussed something that I'd never thought about before, and sort of changed my perspective of maybe the motives behind the book from the author's motives, because I learned something from the context in which the author was writing from that. I learned something and perhaps something that perhaps influenced the author, and it changed the way I thought about why the author was writing in a certain way. So I think, yeah, you learn new things and it changes the way you maybe see something.
So on that specific part in your interview, did the conversation slowly turn from something that you kind of felt like you like were very confident and knew what you're talking about, into then like a new conversation into exploring different things you might have not thought about beforehand?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's starting somewhere that you would have prepared a lot
Yeah.
on, and then it goes towards something that you had never thought about before, and it gives you the opportunity to sort of develop your thoughts and think about something new with the support of the interviewer.
Yeah.
And that was probably my favourite part of the Spanish
Oh,
interview,
nice.
was thinking about that. Yeah.
That's interesting because most people would find that to be the more daunting and scary part. What was it about it that was like made it your favorite?
I think it's, well, the interviewers, they know that obviously you won't know everything about
Yeah.
every book you've read, and I think they, because they're aware of that, they sort of help you and push you.
Yeah.
And I think sort of going in that direction and being pushed in that direction and thinking about something that I'd never considered before, I did find that really interesting. And it wasn't as scary as you might think it is, because you're sort of supported by the interviewer.
Yeah.
And they want to see the way you develop your thoughts. They're not deciding if your answer is right or wrong. It's about the process of how you get to your answer.
Yeah.
And it's the way you think about it. And I think I just found it interesting because it's something I'd never thought about before. And yeah.
Nice. And is that something you kind of expected before you went into the interview, or is that something that you kind of I don't know, realized that the interview was going to be like that afterwards?
I was sort of aware that I would be talking about things that I wasn't really prepared to.
Okay, nice.
But I didn't do anything to prepare for that. Like,
Okay.
I prepared for the stuff that I knew
Right.
I could talk about, like from my personal statement. And I think as long as you have a strong basis on that, you should be prepared enough to go into things that you're not prepared to talk about.
Yeah.
I think being aware that that's probably going to happen, but you don't need to prepare for it because of the structure of the interview. yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So like, say someone's hearing that and they find the idea of a conversation going into something that they haven't prepared for quite stressful, or they think they might get stressed when that happens. Like, how did it feel like for you when the interview made that turn, or like what advice would you have for someone who would get stressed by that?
Yeah, I think just like stay calm, like
Yeah.
take your time. It's not, you don't need to rush it. Just take your time, take some deep breaths. Um, just let yourself think for a bit, give yourself some thinking time. Um, and I think don't overthink it. Just say what you're thinking. Don't worry about if it's right or wrong or a bit muddled up. The interviewer wants to see what you're thinking. So sort of just think out loud. I think that's the big thing with the Cambridge interviews is thinking out loud.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just stay calm and don't stress.
Yeah.
Just see where your conversation leads.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds like really good advice. And obviously it obviously worked out really well for you, because I can see why, because you've been answering these questions like in a very calm way. And would you say um like staying staying calm, like those kind of things, because someone might think that they might worry about what they're saying, but also kind of working on staying calm also helps with how they actually do in the interview.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think it's just about taking your time
Yeah,
and not rushing into an answer.
yeah.
Um, yeah, just yeah, I think take your time's probably
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, Another thing about MML interviews is that's like really different to all the other interviews. Is I believe that part of the interview might be in the language that you're applying for. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so both for Spanish and German, I had a small conversation in both the languages, but it wasn't for long. I think it was only for about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Um, and just a basic conversation. In Spanish, my conversation was about the pre-reading. So I think be prepared to talk about a text critically out loud. And I think students are prepared for that anyway because of the A-level syllabus and the literature.
Yeah.
You're prepared to talk about literature or piece of writing
Yeah.
in a critical way anyway from class. So I think just making sure that you're comfortable having a conversation with your teacher about text and about devices used by an author. And then for German, we spoke about grammar. So I was giving sentences to change the word order and change the tenses.
Yeah.
And that was in German. But again, that conversation was quite basic because it's something that you would do anyway in an A-level class. So I think just making sure you know the basics, the basic grammar, making sure that you're accurate on that. And then, just practicing having basic conversations with your teacher, with your classmates, or even just with yourself in the mirror, and just making sure you're confident in speaking. Yeah.
So to start from the beginning, you mentioned pre-reading. Can you explain what that is and how much time you had to do the pre-reading, etc.?
So before the interview, I was given I can't remember how long it was. It must have been
Yeah.
about 20-25 minutes.
Okay.
And
So 20-25 minutes before your interview.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they gave you, they sent you the pre-reading text.
Yeah.
And you're on a Zoom call. So you're on that for about 25 minutes and you're just given time to read through the text, really make yourself familiar with the words, read it through. I mean, if you don't know what a word means, then don't worry because you're not expected to know, to translate the text or anything. But maybe go through and highlight interesting grammar used, if it's a bit abnormal, or look for maybe some devices used by the author that could mean something, just interesting things you find in the text. And then after that, you go into the interview.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think take that time in the pre-reading just to familiarize yourself with the text, with the words used, anything interesting you might want to discuss if you were asked about it in the interview.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And both for your German interview and Spanish interview, the pre-reading was in German, and then the Spanish one, the pre-reading was in Spanish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're both in the language. And there were some words that I wasn't sure about. So, and you're not expected to know every word, so don't stress about that. But the basic meaning, it should be fine to understand.
Yeah. And you were applying for both those languages post A level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's important to remember that for anyone who's watching, and one of the languages they're applying for is ab initio. I assume the pre-reading would be different for them. They won't expect you to know the language. You're starting from scratch. And in your interviews, in either of them, did you converse in German or converse in Spanish at any points of the interviews?
Yeah. So in the Spanish one, you'll get a warning.
Okay.
The interviewer will say we're going to talk in Spanish now.
Yeah.
So in the Spanish one, we discussed the pre-reading text.
In Spanish?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Spanish. So we discussed some of, I think I was like looking for use of the subjunctive or something.
Okay.
We discussed interesting parts of the text and like devices used by the author, and maybe the reasons why the author was writing in a certain way or writing the text. And then for the German one, it was a bit different. We discussed the pre-reading in English, and then the German, we had a discussion about grammar. So I was given sentences to change, like manipulate the word order and the tenses, and we spoke in German. And we had a little conversation about one aspect of my personal statement, but it was really basic. Okay. So yeah, the conversing part in Spanish or German, don't worry about it, because it will be just at the level you'd speak in an A-level class. So don't stress about that, because it's not as daunting as you might think. Just make sure you know the basics and can have a conversation with your, like, maybe practice in A-level classes with your teacher, or ask them to just have a conversation with you, just so you make sure you're comfortable with that. But yeah, it's a lot less stressful than you might think.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Which one would you say you're more at ease at talking about? The reading and in Spanish, or talking about the grammar in German?
I think the reading in Spanish, I was a bit more comfortable with. Just because we spoke more in my A-level classes, we spoke more in Spanish about the literature that we were studying. So I sort of used to talking about that. The German one, I think it was quite hard, because I don't know, like talking German grammar is hard anyway, but and then talking in German about it was but also I think German is for me it's a harder language to keep up a conversation with, just because the word order is so strict. And I think I do find, like, Spanish it more comfortable, like talking in. So I did find talking about the reading a bit easier, but it just depends on your strengths. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that does, at least to me, that does sound difficult, but also really cool to be able to do, especially in two languages. Did you prepare for the conversational part of the interview, and like, what advice would you have for upcoming applicants in how to prepare the conversing in the other language part of the interview?
I didn't prepare that much for it, because I'd spoken to a friend who's at Cambridge now, and she said that it was only for a few minutes. So I didn't prepare, like I didn't over prepare for it. But I do remember I went over key, like the basic grammar, to make sure I was confident on that. And then also having conversations in the language, just talk, maybe like when I was practicing my personal statement, practicing discussing a bit of that, or with my A-level teacher, having conversations, just basic conversations. But the conversing part will only be for a few minutes.
Okay.
So try not to stress about it too much. I think the main thing is the English speaking part, because that's when you'll go into more depth in
Right. Yeah.
like the thinking
Yeah.
behind and the personal statement as well.
Interesting. And I think it's important to say just a quick disclaimer. Each so the interviews in a particular college will change year after year, and how the interviewers approach interviews might change year after year, and on top of that, each college might will do the interviews differently. So they, just because one college had even like pre-reading doesn't mean that another college might have pre-reading. So um, just to take that into account, that that each colleges do their interviews slightly differently. Yeah, we've gone through everything. Was there? I can just ask like one last question if there's anything else you'd have for advice. Do you think there's anything else you'd say?
Um, I think maybe have a look online, research a bit of your interviewers, just so you know, like who you'll be having the interview with and what their interests are. But I think don't stress too much about that, because you want to make sure you're talking about your interests, because they want to see
Mm,
why you're interested in the subject, and they don't want you to be changing your ideas based on
yeah.
what you think they are interested in. So make sure you stick to your interests, and then it will be a lot easier for you to like think out loud and converse with the interviewers.
Mm,
So don't stress too much about your interviewers. Um, and I think just stay calm,
yeah.
and just remind yourself why you're so interested in the subject. Um, and maybe, yeah, I think go through your personal statement and really think deeply about each aspect and
Mm,
what you might want to say in the interview, interesting points you might want to make about them. But yeah, just try and show your passion.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really good advice. And just one last quick question. I know you said that the conversational part in a different language is only a few minutes. But if anyone was quite stressed about that, or felt like they wanted to practice it but wasn't sure how to, in what ways do you think you can like practice that part of the interview?
I think maybe if you're on your own, maybe go through your personal statement, pick out a couple of things, and try speaking out loud about those.
Yeah, yeah,
Anything you might want to say in English, try and speak it in the language
yeah,
that you're having the interview in, um, and practice speaking about it out loud. And then you could even find like texts online, literary texts, go through, pick out some interesting devices or reasons why you think the author's written it, and talk about that in the language. Um, and yeah, I think the main thing is just keep making sure you are comfortable having a conversation in that language. Practice in class, maybe ask your teachers to have some
mm,
more conversations with you one on one,
yeah,
or even friends who study or speak the language.
yeah,
Um, just practice speaking as much as you can.
yeah. So it's definitely something you could do on your own, even if you don't
Yeah,
have someone to talk to and converse
yeah,
with.
definitely. Because I think with the preparation, the personal statement part, you're practicing out loud, like speaking parts of it out loud and developing your thinking. And I think it's something that you could do in the language as well. You can do it on your own.
Yeah.
Just practice speaking, thinking out loud, but in the language. Just definitely something you can do. I think at this point in A levels, you're getting a lot more confident in the language. So
Yeah.
it's something that you could definitely do. And it's not, I think, just stay calm, because it isn't as stressful as you might think. I think just practice speaking out loud.
Yeah. I imagine practicing that a lot would make the interview less stressful the more practice you do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Amazing. Well, thank you, Phoebe. That's a really interesting interview podcast on MML interviews. I definitely learned a lot more about MML interviews than I knew beforehand, and I think it'd be really useful for people watching, if they have an MMO interview, to know what to expect and how to prepare for them. And thank you for the viewers for watching, whether it's on YouTube or your podcasting platform. We're hoping to do more podcasts on the remaining subjects that we've done haven't done on interviews yet. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you guys next time. Nice.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. How was that?
Good. Yeah, thank you.
I definitely rambled.